Hello and welcome to JRock's Pop Culture Revolution. This is episode number 9, and we are talking all about this movie from 2024. And of course, this is Beetlejuice. It is the follow-up movie to the classic 1988 movie Beetlejuice. And of course, Beetlejuice comes 36 years later. And what can we say? There's always kind of been that golden rule about sequels, no matter what you're talking about. I mean, it's not always the case, but that's why, like, you look at a movie like American Graffiti. Okay, great classic movie. One of the first films George Lucas ever did as a director. Predates Star Wars. Very different movie from Star Wars. And even a lot of people aren't aware of it. American Graffiti actually had a sequel a few years later. It was not the big blockbuster that the original film was. So that kind of proves what they say about sequels. Now, that's not always the case because, again, in reference to George Lucas, and the success he had with the original American Graffiti film, it's hard to kind of duplicate when something is that successful. I mean, it's very hard to kind of repeat that. Now, Lucas was one person who was able to do it in the sense that, in reference to Star Wars, I mean, the very first Star Wars film back in 1977 was a huge, massive hit, and then Empire Strikes Back was just as good. So there are exceptions to the rules. Now, in regards to Beetlejuice, was it worth waiting 36 years for? I dare say yes, because again, as far as a second Beetlejuice movie, it is something that director Tim Burton and actor Michael Keaton, who plays the title role of Beetlejuice, had always wanted to do. Had many false starts, but there was even one plan where there was talk of making a Beetlejuice movie where Beetlejuice goes on vacation in Hawaii. Possibly could have been funny, but it never really got too far off the ground for one reason or another. And I think both Tim Burton, who created Beetlejuice, and the actor who played him, Michael Keaton, neither one of them wanted to just have a second Beetlejuice movie just for the hell of it, just to throw it out there to say they did it. If they were going to do it, they loved the character of Beetlejuice so much they wanted it to be a story that kind of would be just as memorable as the first movie. So it took them a number of years, and finally we got that second Beetlejuice movie in 2024. Now, and I must say, to me, it was well worth the wait. I mean, I didn't even see this movie when it was out in the theaters. Just never got around to it, but I'd always wanted to see it. So when it became available on DVD and Blu-ray, yes, I do still collect these, folks. For anybody wanting to know. And here's the thing: I still do go to the movie theater because many people are just kind of glued to their TV set now. And oh well, you just stream everything on TV. We'll stay home and watch it. That's fun to do too. But and it's maybe the same thing. You say, well, you got DVD, Blu-ray. What's the difference? It's just that I never got around to seeing it when Beetlejuice was in the theater. So I thought, okay, I want to see if this movie is everything I've been told it was, and it turned out to be just as good. I don't know if I'll say just as good as the first one, but the new Beetlejuice movie does not disappoint. I was not telling myself that, oh man, they should have just not done another Beetlejuice movie. They should have just kept the original by itself. Let it stand as a classic that it is. But no, the new movie does not disappoint. Now, let me tell you a little bit about new movie now. Beetlejuice, of course, is, as I said, the 2024 follow-up to the classic American gothic dark fantasy comedy horror film directed by Tim Burton. And the original Beetlejuice movie, of course, was released in 1988, as I said. And so Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, rather, the follow-up film comes some 36 years after the release of the original film, and this is all important and worth repeating because one of the things I think that makes Beetlejuice such a memorable character, as well as a movie, uh, the original movie from 1988, is the fact that it's a combination of like horror and comedy, which is something that I really have always been a huge fan of. And I must go on to tell you folks that um, the thing that is I've never been a huge horror film. Now, I love the classic Universal horror movies such as, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, and stuff like that. Again, those, if you go back and watch those classic horror films, those are going back to the days of not only when people were seeing horror movies for the very first time, but movies were kind of just in their infancy of being made. I mean, you go back and you watch the classic Dracula film from Universal Studios. The classic Dracula film, I think, came out like in 1931. And here's the thing. There was not a whole lot of acting in the film. I mean, Dracula is kind of the main character you see throughout most of the movie. He's not talking to too many people. So when you see Dracula on film, he's pretty much just talking talking to people watching the movie, talking to the screen basically. Um, and again, as you get into movie making, and history of Hollywood, once again, Dracula is one of the first films where it was actual talking in a movie. It was one of the first films not to be a silent picture. So something like Dracula really kind of stands out. But again, it was much more of a darker movie. It wasn't. There was very little comedy to Dracula. It was really what it was. It stood out as a horror movie because that's what it was. There was really very little comedy to a film like Dracula. Now, um, I can tell you from having done a episode of my former pop culture show, Garbor's Time Machine, on Young Frankenstein. Um, that was Young Frankenstein itself, which came out, I believe, in 1974, was one of the first movies in Hollywood that combined both horror and comedy. I've always been a big fan of any type of comedy movie. Who doesn't like to go to movies and laugh? Who doesn't like to have a good time? Um, and so comedy has probably always been my favorite type of movie. But when you combine horror and comedy, it's just a great mix. Another great kind of series of horror films they did, again from Universal Studios, was those classic Abbott and Costello horror movies. Like they had Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello meets the Invisible Man, Abbott and Costello, I think, meets Dracula. So again, it was a comedic adaptation of those classic horror films with some great comedy from Abbott and Costello thrown in there. Going back to Young Frankenstein from 1974. Another fun fact for all you hard rock fans out there is that there's a line in there where it says "Walk this way," and it was watching that very movie that Steven Tyler was influenced and inspired to write the hit Aerosmith song "Walk This Way," which of course would come out on their classic 1975 album "Toys in the Attic." So this is a great kind of history on horror movies and Hollywood. Now, getting back to Beetlejuice, again, the sequel does not disappoint, and I'm glad it took them this long to make the film. And Michael Keaton, who plays the title character, Beetlejuice, he wanted to, like Tim Burton, the director, really wanted to do another Beetlejuice film, but they did not want to do it just for hell of put another Beetlejuice movie out there. So they were both very happy with the final product. Once the movie hit theaters, it was a hit. And here's the thing, okay? While they didn't modernize Beetlejuice too much. I mean, they concentrate on some of the, of course, things from the original Beetlejuice movie, like saying Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, and then he reappears. Now, Winona Ryder reappears as her character, um, Lydia. I think it's Lydia Deetz, and she's grown up. Again, it's 36 years later. She's got a teenage daughter, so that's part of a story. They're returning to the family house where she first encountered Beetlejuice 36 years ago, and I guess Lydia's teenage daughter. Again, this is Winona Ryder's character. Um, has heard all these stories from her mom about Beetlejuice, and she kind of thinks her mom is crazy. But then, of course, eventually Beetlejuice reappears in the movie, and chaos, chaos begins. Um, but Beetlejuice is one of those characters in pop culture very interesting because until this new movie came out in 2024, Beetlejuice only appeared in one movie. And then, through the years, he became a pop culture icon type of character. You'd see him from time to time, in commercials and stuff. Um, and people think of Beetlejuice around Halloween. Um, and I think again that has more to do with the fact that Beetlejuice is kind of a comedic horror type of character, and so oftentimes that gets lumped into Halloween time, and oftentimes like in reference to the original Beetlejuice movie, you'll see that come on around Halloween time for that very reason alone. And again, it's amazing that until 2024 there was not another Beetlejuice movie, and yet Beetlejuice was such an iconic pop culture figure with just one movie. Um, and out of all the parts that actor Michael Keaton has played in his career, he's reported saying that Beetlejuice is his favorite character that he's ever played. Now, let's be honest. When we think of Michael Keaton, I think a lot of people would agree with him because um, going back to very early in his career when people first started seeing Michael Keaton appear on the movie screen, it was in the movie Mr. Mom, about this guy that he's kind of out, loses his job, he's out of work, but his wife gets a job and she's working, and he stays home and takes care of the kids, and as you can imagine, gets all kind of razzing from his friends and family. Hey, your wife's working, you stay home, take care of the kids. Well, that's a great movie and everything, but it is probably remembered for a fact it was one of his earliest roles, but probably the most other kind of iconic character that Michael Keaton ever played was Batman. Going back to the 1987 Batman movie, and he did a outstanding job of playing Batman. In fact, he looked a lot like the version of Bruce Wayne from the classic 1966 Batman movie. And so again, I guess because Beetlejuice has always been so um, thought of so warmly by Michael Keaton. When he got to reprise the role of Beetlejuice, he really did a great job of doing it. I can't imagine that they could have got another actor to play the role of Beetlejuice. Now, you get somebody made up in part of Beetlejuice, kind of can look the same, but it's not. You can look at the person, no, it's not exactly the same person. It's a different voice, maybe, and maybe they could do a convincing job. But I think it made sense to stick with Michael Keaton. He played the original role. It meant so much to him. So why would you want to get somebody else to do it? Possibly, maybe say, well, if we get anybody other than Michael Keaton, maybe we get them, for a lot less money. But I'm glad the studio decided to stick with Michael Keaton because he's the only true like Beetlejuice in my mind. I can't imagine it, without him. But who really knows? Now in February 2024, director Tim Burton announced that there was going to indeed be a new Beetlejuice movie, and it was going to be called Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Now, I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, I get kind of where we're going with that Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Okay, the fact that it's really maybe Beetlejuice 2. Okay, I get it. Say it twice. And then he also announced that the title role of Beetlejuice will once again be played by actor Michael Keaton, and you can imagine how happy everybody was. And here's the thing: as far as the soundtrack, the Beetlejuice Beetlejuice was also scored by Oingo Boingo frontman Danny Elfman, who scored the original 1988 film. So he's getting all the same team back together for a follow up movie. Now there's already talk of maybe Beetlejuice 3. What do you think? I hope they don't wait another 36 years because all the key players by then may be dead. So who knows? But by that time they may be ready for a reboot with some new actors, as Hollywood has been known to do. Now, I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. I went out yesterday on Black Friday and I seen a great movie. Now you see, now you see me. I think it's the third one of these films. It's about these great musicians known as the Four Horsemen, and there's a mystery along the way, and kind of they get involved in kind of solving a crime. But it was a great. It laughs along the way throughout the movie, so that's what I've been doing the last few days. I kind of hope there will be future Beetlejuice movies. I mean, Beetlejuice again only has two films to date in this franchise. I think they could do a lot more with Beetlejuice. So we will see if and when that happens. I'd like to thank you all. I am Jason JRock Houston for tuning in to JRock's Pop Culture Revolution. This has been episode 9. And when we see you in a few days for episode 10, I thought we would do something fun, like I always like to do. All these episodes are always really a lot of fun, but we try to spice it up. In one episode we'll be talking about favorite band, favorite music. Another episode we'll be talking about the great classic movies we did today. Well, Beetlejuice. Now, the interesting thing about today's episode is I should say it was about a great classic, iconic pop culture character. Of course, Beetlejuice being the topic, and the fact that we're not talking about the original 1988 film here, but I thought it was just as important to make people aware that there is finally a Beetlejuice sequel. Beetlejuice came out last year in 2024. If you haven't seen it, as I showed you, you can pick it up on Blu-ray, DVD. It's probably streaming on Netflix and all the streaming services. I'm pretty sure about that. I'd like to know what you guys think of the Beetlejuice movie. Did you like the original 1988 film? Did you like the new Beetlejuice just as much? So that's what today's episode was all about. Now, when we tune in, we get together to do episode 10 in a few days. What I thought would be really fun is we could talk about one of my favorite classic TV shows, but we're going to put a different spin on it, as we typically do. Now, what we're going to do for episode 10 is, being that Christmas is right around the corner, I thought it would be fun to look back on one of my favorite episodes of the 1970s classic TV show Happy Days. One of the Christmas episodes where Fonzie tells the gang, because he really has nothing to do and he's so embarrassed. He doesn't want anybody to know, but he doesn't have anywhere to go for Christmas. So he lies and tells a story that he's going out of town to his cousin's house for Christmas. His cousin nobody's ever heard of until now. And so, along the way, Richie kind of figures out, Richie Cunningham, Richie the C, Mr. Humdrum himself, Richie, figures out that the Fonz is kind of fibbing and doesn't have really anywhere to go. And he makes his dad, Howard Cunningham, Mr. C, kind of where, hey, Dad, I don't think the Fonz really has anywhere to go. And by the end of the episode, Fonzie is joining the Cunninghams for Christmas. And this is one of the first episodes where we see that the Fonz is really kind of feeling like part of the Cunningham family. It's one of my all-time favorite episodes. So we're going to be talking about that in episode 10. So I'll see you guys in a few days for that. Take care and enjoy what's left of your Thanksgiving weekend. Bye for now.